All right, are we ready? Ladies, gentlemen, Alderman Rainey will be on her way.
Kate's going to get her. Watch this.
Give me 1 second.
To dial up?
See?
Are we waiting for?
Go over to that side since we have nobody in the gallery.
Are we waiting for video feed or not?
I will make a phone. We're ready to go. Bye. Susan, get that screen up.
Should we wait for it, or?
I usually say.
Are you ready, Phil? Mr. Brown? Good evening and welcome. This is Administration and Public Works on Monday, February 11th. First item of business, now that I have declared a quorum, is consideration of the minutes of our meeting from January 28th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? As to items for consideration, A1 is our City of Evanston payroll through January 27th of $2,692,151.86.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Shouldn't we use the amended one?
That's as to bills, Alderman Holmes, and
okay.
that's
I'm
our
sorry,
next
payroll.
agenda
I'm
item.
sorry.
Thank
You're
you.
right. Absolutely. Thank you.
So A2, looking at our agenda addendum. A2 is approval of the City of Evanston bills from fiscal year 2012 in the amount of $897,513.09, and City of Evanston bills from 2013, incurred in 2013, of $943,093.75. In addition, our credit card activity through the end of 2012 of $96,753.61. And note this is a correction to the agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions about the bills?
Question.
Yes.
Yeah, try to go like things out on there. Oh, here, I'll do it for you.
Too many switches.
There it is. Thank you, Alderman.
On the property that was sold at 110 Greenwood, do we know how much it was sold? What the purchase price and who bought the property?
Alderman Burrows, can you help us find where you are referring? This is to...
Bill's response.
Yes, all right. Second page of the bill's response at the top.
Yeah, sorry
thank
about
you.
that. Yeah.
Steve Griffin with the Community Economic Development Department. We actually, that didn't come into play that it was sold. What it was is the couple had pulled a permit back in 2007 for about a $2 million house they were constructing on the property, and then through a series of events, they never built it. So we keep that portion that we reviewed, but they were entitled to a refund. But if you'd like to know more about the particulars on whether the lot sold and who to, I'll be glad to pull that for you.
Yeah, I believe it sold in January of this year, and I just wanted to find out how much. So
I'll take care
even
of
though
it.
we're taking money back for the permit fees, we're getting money for the transfer tax. And
That's a
so
good point.
I'm just looking at the balance, and
Okay.
I also wanted to see who purchased it in case it's an adjoining property owner versus are we going to have another property, someone else bought the property that will be coming in
Consolidate.
looking to build a parcel there. So
And generate
it's more
more
for
permit
information.
fees.
Yes, thank you.
I'll do that and get it to you. I saw your email later this afternoon on that.
Alderman?
Yes.
Mr.
Mr. Lyons.
Steve, if we could perhaps go down to catch the city clerk. They may have
the information for later on at the council meeting.
I'll go. All right. Thank you.
Great. All right, the bills and credit card activity has been moved and seconded. Any other questions, concerns? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. A 3.1, approval of a single source purchase from Standard Equipment Company for maintenance of street sweeper number 668 in the amount of $23,940.15. Alderman Rainey.
Madam Chairman, I thought it was very interesting, and I think it's important to share with those who aren't on the committee, that our staff, our fleet service staff, is going to begin to do some repair work on some of these pieces of heavy equipment that we normally would send out for routine required maintenance. I think that's a very good thing.
Hope they'll produce some cost savings, just like bringing our legal work in-house seems to have done.
Only auto repair is more expensive than legal work.
And very valuable. It's been
Yes.
moved and seconded. A 3.1, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. A 3.2, approval of a contract extension with Werfs Industries for the annual maintenance of heavy fire apparatus vehicles for 1 year in the amount of $95,000.
Move approval.
All in favor? Any opposed? Turning the page to A 3.3, approval of the renewal of our elevator service agreement with Otis Elevators for maintenance of elevators in the Civic Center, Service Center, and the Maple Avenue and Church Street self-parks.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. A 3.4 is approval of the renewal of our other elevator service agreement with ThyssenKrupp Elevator Corporation for the Sherman Plaza Self-Park in the amount of $37,950.24, which is a 3% increase as compared to the one with Otis, which I think held constant from last year.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A 3.5, approval of the renewal of an annual service agreement, maintenance and support agreement with Azteca City Works. It's a sole source maintenance and support agreement in the amount of $22,405. And again, the amount of the service fee is being held constant from last year.
Second.
Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
I switched it up. A 3.6 is approval of a contract award for third-party administration of general and automobile liability and workers' compensation claims to Cannon Cochran Management Services in the amount of $85,000.
Move approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. A4 is Resolution 4R13 authorizing that payments relating to the fiscal year 2013 capital improvement plan projects be reimbursed by our subsequent 2013 GO bond issuance in the amount of up to $10,039,250.
Move approval.
All in favor?
Are we going to get any kind of staff report on this, Madam Chairman?
Mr. Lane?
Each year, for the past few years, we have, Alderman Rainey, members of the committee, each year we have done a reimbursement resolution because we have held fire, if you will, on issuing bonds until the last possible minute. That means that we tend to use reserves until we have no reserves left to use. And a lot of that has to do with earning only a half a point on our investments and paying 3% on our bonds. So to hold off, we save, even if it's only for 4 or 5 months, saving $10 million, 2% of $10 million is still, could be as much as $100,000 by waiting to issue debt. However, in order to then use the debt that's issued later for a project that's already begun, we have to have a reimbursement resolution on file so that potential bond buyers see exactly what we are using bond proceeds for.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any idea of what the interest rate on the bond sale
we will, I believe, still be between 3 and 4% on a 20-year issue. There's the potential that we will move forward with bond sales before June this year, just because the market's starting to head that way. So we in the past, we've gone July, we've gone August, so I believe we'll be closer to May, June this year, just watching that market. And we also have the chance for at least two different years of bonds to refund. So those are our older bonds that have higher interest rates, where we could save anywhere from 5 to 10% off of the interest that we're paying presently. So we would reissue bonds to replace them, not putting them out for any longer duration. They would mature at the same time as originally scheduled, but just to save on interest costs.
And to reassure everybody, all of these expenditures have already been voted on and approved by the council.
Yes, these expenditures listed in the table on page 102 were all a part of the capital improvements plan approved by the council.
Alderman Burris?
Could you just remind me again of how much bond debt we have?
We have approximately $153 million in general obligation debt. Not all of that is paid for out of property taxes. Some is paid for from the water fund or from our TIF funds. And we also still have, I will have to go look, we still have approximately $80 million in IEPA loan debt as well.
Thank you.
And that is, as of the present time, not what you'd find in our audit.
And the IEPA debt comes out of the water and sewer fund, or the sewer fund. Which fund? The sewer fund.
Most of it is out of the sewer fund. We did issue a small water. We were able to get between 1 and 1.5% on a water project as well. So we've been looking at those. We haven't had our water fund re-rated in a long time, but when it was last rated, it was AAA. And we still can't beat 1.5% on an IEPA revolving loan.
All right, A4 has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A5 is Resolution 10R13 for the Dempster Street Traffic Signal Modernization and Coordination Project, Phase 1 Engineering Agreements.
Move approval.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Yes, Alderman Braithwaite.
Just a quick question for Director Robinson. Just in reading through the plans, it calls for coordination in local meetings. I just wanted to get an understanding of kind of what's the meeting process, and is there going to be any impact to the residents that have to travel up and down Dempster during the construction period?
Good evening,
evening,
Committee
Director
Chair
Robinson.
and committee members. Suzette Robinson, Director of Public Works. The answer to your second question is yes, there will be an impact to the traffic on Dempster. And as far as the meeting coordination, we haven't set the schedule just yet. Once we get the consultant, we'll be out within a month, providing exactly when we will be meeting with residents to talk over the plans.
Okay. So we have some time.
Yes.
All right.
Right, any other questions? It's been moved and seconded. A5, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A6, Ordinance 6013, amending Title 10 of our Motor Vehicle Code. Miscellaneous amendments.
Move approval.
Thank you. Is there a second? Alderman Rainey?
I need somebody to make this simpler for me. We're going to be giving tickets for some of the motor vehicle violations that are state statute, right?
I think we have
But
answers.
could you tell me what they are? I just couldn't figure it out.
We'll have Ricky Voss, because I'm not the one that makes things simpler.
No.
Wow, understatement there.
Madam Chair, Assistant City Manager Lyons, members of the committee, good evening. Ricky Voss,
Good evening.
Revenue Manager, City of Evanston. Alderman Rainey.
Could you just tell me what the violations are that we're now going to be giving a ticket for?
These are basically equipment violations. Taillight out, seat belt, if I remember correctly.
And tell me
Obstructing
one
a-
more time why we're doing that, because I think some of those, that's the way I thought it was, but it seems like some of those are really important.
They are important, but they are considered, they were classified as equipment violations. Most of the time when you cite them under what they call a Y or an X ticket, it will go to the court, and normally the court says, are you in compliance? They hold up a thing, and I had it repaired, and it's done.
You're right. Okay.
And this way, we're able to not only cite them on a parking ticket, and eventually then we add them into the regular parking citation the process, and then it goes from there.
And you think that we're going to do better having them here at administrative adjudication, which is where they'll come, right?
They'll either come to administrative adjudication, and if they don't pay the fines, then they'll be eligible for a mobilization, just like all other parking tickets.
After 5? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Just like it's just another parking citation.
So it'll add to, if they already have 3 tickets for parking and they get, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Alderman Burris?
Just because you're here, the sound amplification system violation, one of my favorites. How does that really, do we give many tickets for that? Because I know I've called it in, and obviously the sound's down by the time anybody gets there, so can you tell me how loud does it have to be?
It's hard to say at this. I haven't done it for a long time, and I don't know how the current police do it. Remember when I was on the street back. If I heard you about a quarter of a block away, that means you were loud, and then normally you could pin it. So I think it all depends on the particular officer. It's strictly a discretionary type.
I thought the ordinance had a 75-foot. 75, was it?
But it's hard to
Thinking back, yeah.
catch them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a tiny
Alderman
thing.
Holmes?
I am. Mr. Voss, in terms of the no front rear license plates, since I can't even remember when the state stopped issuing 2 license plates because you get a little sticker each time. People who've never had but 1 license plate, because who knows what happened to the other one years ago, and you still have the same license for, 10 years or more? What do you do in a case like that? Will the state issue another one?
The state of Illinois will issue a duplicate plate upon request because people do lose it, and it is mandated by the code under the state statute. If you lose the plate, you have to go in and request a replacement plate, and you pay a minor fee, and they do reissue a replacement plate. It's just almost like the sticker. The state of Illinois still requires 2 license plates be affixed to the vehicle unless it's an apportioned vehicle, semi-tractor trailer, or a semi-tractor, or an apportioned vehicle, motorcycles included.
I just haven't had one for years.
Yes, Mr. Lyons.
Chief Eddington, Alderman Burris, did you get your answer? Otherwise, Chief Eddington is also here.
Sure, why not?
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the council. I heard part of retired Sergeant Voss's answer, and that's pretty accurate. And once again, there are times when there's an ebb and flow to this enforcement. If there's a complaint in the neighborhood, if there's an ongoing issue, we're more strictly enforcing it. Also, if we happen to be out at one of our IDOT enforcement periods, that will be something that will be picked up more readily. But once again, if it is an issue, I would encourage residents to call so we can focus on that. And a couple of tickets usually address that relatively promptly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Alderman Rainey.
Why does the state require a front license plate? Not all do.
I don't believe the chief or Mr. Voss or anyone else in the room may know that question because there are many states that just require the one plate. So
I was in a parking lot in another state, that would be Florida, and there were cars from every state in the union, and very few, they stuck out. The Illinois cars had front plates, but most everybody didn't. I thought it was very interesting. It occurred to me, why do we do that?
All right,
Maybe
thank you,
it
Mr.
gives-
Brown.
It gives prisoners more to do.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Voss. It's been moved and seconded. That's A6, which is Ordinance 6013. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. A7 is Ordinance 18013, amending our city code regarding soliciting and panhandling. This has already been introduced at council. It came back to us with amendments. So it's already been introduced. This would be for action.
Discussion.
Discussion. Mhm. Alderman Rainey.
This allows for panhandling if there is no posting to deny it until 9 o'clock at night. I think that's too late. You come home from work, your kids come home from school, you do the dinner, and people are ringing your doorbell at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. It's very invasive, very intrusive, and I would like to see it stop at 7, let's say. I mean, it's arbitrary. I just think 9 o'clock is way too late. Also, I talked to Mr. Lyons today about the matter of the sign in the door, and it's my suggestion that we post a sign, the wording for a sign online so that people can download it and put that on so that it would be in accordance with the legislation that we're passing, so that somebody can't say, well, I didn't understand what it meant, and that way people won't be writing with crayon and magic marker their sign.
I like your suggestion about 9 to 7 it would be then on weekdays.
Yeah.
Am I right?
So I would like to
Any other-
move that as an amendment
I second.
to the ordinance. And this, my understanding is would this also be for solicitors coming around to get you to buy into their energy programs and
Welcome, Mr. Farrar.
excluding the Girl Scouts? I just really want everybody to know I don't want to restrict the Girl Scouts, but they shouldn't be out that way.
Good evening, Madam Chairman Grant, for our Corporation Council and members of the committee. With respect to the proposed amendment from Alderman Rainey, I believe for purposes of clarity, if you're referencing subsection 3 that talks about the soliciting till 9 p.m., we're talking about soliciting, which is a little bit different from panhandling. So if you're talking about soliciting to 7 o'clock, I just wanted to make the record clear in terms of that proposed amendment to the ordinance, because panhandling, which is under number 4, is currently restricted to 4 p.m.s on weekdays, and there's a little bit difference in the activity per the definition of the ordinance. With respect to the other part of the question, Alderman Rainey, in terms of the exceptions for solicitation, those are not clearly defined in the ordinance as currently drafted, and the reason why is because there could be a whole host of exceptions that would need to be read into the ordinance. I suppose from an enforcement standpoint, it's pretty clear with respect to what this committee may be thinking should be regulated, but I don't know if the template for the language to cover every possible exception is currently out there. I think that in terms of the time to 7 p.m. with respect to solicitation, I think that pretty well twins up with what is in the amended version before you that already restricts it based panhandling to 4 p.m. And with respect to the amendments, what the law department tried to do in the intervening span of 2 weeks is to the best we could, capture the dialogue and the conversation that was had, and also the citizen comment that has been received relative to activities after dark and at the later hours. So I think that for purposes of narrowly tailoring these regulations, we've done our due diligence and put together a pretty comprehensive set of language.
Any other questions? I had one, Mr. Farrar, about enforcement of this. This would be then prosecuted as a public nuisance violation of this ordinance?
Correct.
And what is the range of fines for that? I looked, really couldn't find anything specific. I may not have found the right provision in our code.
Typically, the fines that are assessed in administrative adjudication are $50 through $500. If there's not a specific fine that's laid out in the violation section. So it's really tailored to the set of facts. I also think that there's alternative means of staying a fine. I mean, fines are stayed commonly for various offenses, so there is some latitude with respect to the enforcement. And again, it's really impossible to spell all that out in the organic ordinance with respect to the violation itself, but I think it's important to note for the record that there is some latitude there based upon the situation that presents itself.
With community service is another option and so forth. All right.
Correct.
Alderman Holmes.
Just for consistency's sake, couldn't it be from 9 to 6 and just have it from Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, and it don't have to worry about different times?
So what I think
instead of 7?
Alderman Holmes is referring to is the solicitation
Under
that's
4.
proposed goes from...
Under 3. It says 9, well, Alderman Rainey is proposing 9 to 7.
Right.
And I'm simply saying, since it says 9 to 6 on Saturdays, why can't we be consistent and just say 9 to 6 Monday through Saturdays?
Makes sense.
So solicitation, 9 to 6, panhandling, 9 to 4.
9 to 4.
That we can certainly make that text
That's
change.
still is consistent with our reasonable time, place, manner obligations?
Yes.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
Madam Chair and Mr. Farrar, question about soliciting and licensing. Do we license solicitors? Is there a requirement?
Currently, I am not sure. I think that licensing issue was brought up when this issue was before the council about 2.5 years ago. And I think at that time there was a lot of discussion relative to the licensing issue, both from bringing it in at the starting point with managing the licensing and then the enforcement relative to the licensing. So right now the current version does not speak to licensing.
It doesn't speak to it, but on the other hand, we have no provision in the city code to license solicitors, correct?
Right now, correct.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Alderman Rainey, did you want to amend your amendment? We can call it the Holmes-Rainey, accept the change. All right. Great. So all in favor of the amendment? Aye. Any opposed? So we'll send it to council with an adjustment in the time period for solicitation. That's all. All right. Thank you, Mr. Farrar.
I'm going to take this off the consent agenda.
Yeah.
So you can address it.
Great. Thank you. Items for discussion. 727, 729 Howard Street, our City Lit project. Mr. Griffin.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, to bring the committee up to speed, we're continuing to be in negotiations with City Lit. We met with them last week to explore not just a lease to purchase arrangement, but basically a lease arrangement over a 10-year period and what that would involve. We also are exploring with them other revenue items such as collection of amusement taxes that they would currently exempt from but could collect at 4% on their ticket sales. Also, their designs and finishing out the building included a bar area for and what those liquor tax proceeds would be, so we'd have a better package for the council on that. Also, we got some definitive information from them on just how much office storage and rehearsal space needed to be. The one-story facility didn't include all of that, so we wanted to understand from them just what the minimums need. So we're continuing to work with CityLit. We hope to have some good numbers to bring back to the council for a future discussion and deliberation item.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
I think it would be interesting if we could develop some minutes from that meeting, because one of the things that we did was we fleshed out in a more organized fashion all of the activities that they perform, things that I had forgotten because we found out about it originally over a year ago when we started talking to them. But they provide the Chicago Public School System with a very interesting program on the arts. They also conduct an ongoing Shakespeare program involving only girls, which is just fascinating. And it's become so desirable that girls compete for it. And very, very interesting. And the girls play the role of the men, and, you know, a woman plays Hamlet, etc. And very, very interesting commitments that they make all over the city of Chicago, which we told them when they come here we would like them to make. And they get grants for some of that, so that they're very active and very well known. Also, city manager sent us a link to a article. Did everybody get that?
Griffin Theater?
Yeah, and very nice mention of our theater in that article as another theater who didn't get funded.
Yeah. And very coincidental name.
Right. No
right,
relation.
yeah, Griffin Theater.
No relation.
Right, right.
So anyway,
We're in good company.
We're continuing each week to make a little bit more progress and get some information so we can bring back to the council.
Right. Much appreciated. Thank you.
All right.
Very
Thank
much.
you.
Committee, anything else?
No.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Thank. The city council will begin at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
7:30.